Ferny Ceballos. I'm CEO of attractionmarketing.com, and our company's focused on helping network marketers build their businesses online. So, network marketers being direct sellers, MLMers. Network marketing means basically the same thing. And so, if people are building sales teams and they're recruiting people to sell as well as to build teams themselves, and that's who we serve. Most of the stuff that is taught in network marketing today, still today, pretty much ignores the internet, definitely ignoring all the changes with AI. And we're the most cutting edge company when it comes to helping network marketers build online as an alternative or in addition to the offline strategies. So for some businesses, the offline stuff doesn't work at all and it's resisted, and there's a lot of, baggage around that. For other businesses, it's working, but it's working less so. But regardless of where people are at, we have the online solution and we've been doing it for 20 years. I've always had not so great relationships with agencies. Agencies, for the most part, have failed us because the focus of their attention is on two things. One, on their next client, trying to scale and expand their agency so they can make more money, which I understand. But then also, when they do that, they're stretched thin. And so the only way you get attention from the agency is you complain more than the next client. So you become the squeaky, hinge in the entire operation. And that's just exhausting. Like, you don't hire somebody so that you can continue to chase them and get their attention. And what I realize is, like, no one's going to, you know, think about your business more than you do. And especially somebody that's outside of your team. So I always had just kind of like a negative experience with agencies for the most part. And I realized that the only way I can actually work with an agency if we're lacking like a skill set, I need to get ramped up, is by micromanaging them. And that doesn't, that can work, but it doesn't work long term. And it's exhausting because you just hold them accountable to such a high degree. That being said, well, before we started working with Lance, we did have some agency relationships or people that were, that we hired that there were other things in outside of our business that seemed to be more important, whether it be their lifestyle, etc. They were people that were talented, they were skilled, but also their focus was not our business. Like they didn't prioritize our business the way we wanted to, and we were kind of stuck in that we didn't know how to find better people. So I didn't know how to effectively source and hire somebody, but also more importantly, how to set a standard where the wrong people on your team would fire themselves. So specifically, we had two key team members on our team on the media buying side and on the sales management side that, while had skills, they just weren't owning the part of their business the way we needed them to. I too much had to pay too much attention to their job. Too often I was catching things that they would miss that were central to their job. I was the first to point out issues. I would see the dashboards and I go, "Hey, why are our numbers going down here?" And over again, it was just this pattern where they perceived it as micromanaging. I perceived it as, I keep catching you missing something that's central to what you need to pay attention to in order to do your job effectively. And that got really, really frustrating. And in combination with that, what was happening is, yeah, maybe that worked for a few years, me doing that and kind of like doing that type of micromanaging. But then when media buying became harder, when ad costs started rising, the algorithm changes with Facebook, we saw our cost to acquire customers started going up and rising. And then also there was a trust recession that hit. So it was harder and harder to have the setter closer model kind of work on its own. That's a model that we went into about 5, 6 years ago that worked pretty well. It increased our, our value per customer, value per client. That setter closer model, because now we had specialists doing the setting and specialists doing the closing as opposed to, one salesperson doing everything. And so it did work, but then that model stopped working because there was so much mistrust, because there were so many people already doing that in so many different industries, that it just became almost this cookie cutter business model with setters and closers. And especially in our space, people started seeing, including our former clients that wanted to compete with us, they started basically just cookie cutter what we did. They were in our community as clients and did what we did, and then just basically did a carbon copy of our business model and started doing that. And so when a lot of companies are starting to copy the same model, where they have setters, they have closers, they do ads, they're driving traffic to, in our case, customers, they're trying to get the low ticket funnel sales. And pretty soon all the businesses in our space start looking the same. And that causes a decline in conversion. And we were experiencing that. So we were seeing higher ad costs, and it was getting harder to convert the same people, the same model. We didn't change anything. And we just didn't, one, we didn't know what to do with kind of differently. And that's where Lance came in. Lance helped us kind of view things from a different perspective. He honestly also gave me some, kind of like, as a good mentor does, gave me the courage to have the difficult conversations with the people on our team to start making the shifts. And in some cases, those conversations went well. In other cases, it exposed the inevitable, which is those people needed to go. And so we, fast forward, what we've now done, is that those people on our team that were not fully committed to our vision and to performing at the level we needed to, they're gone. So that's number one. They've been replaced by people who do take ownership, who I don't have to worry about whether they're doing their job or not. And it's kind of interesting. Sometimes I would see months where, we'd had a decline in performance at the media buying side or on the sales side, but I no longer had to worry that, hey, are these people doing their job or not? And I basically, I saw a decline in performance. And before I could say anything, people on the media buying side, people on the sales side that were in leadership positions were catching their issues before I brought them up, more often than not. But like before I noticed anything, I was getting like communication saying, hey, I saw this, or hey, on this day, recently our media buyer was like, hey man, I just want to own up. Like I overspent yesterday and this is what I did. This was my mistake. And he felt terrible. And I was like, well, finally somebody that can own their mistake and feel terrible about how they faltered. And so what that does is like, it allowed me to focus on other parts of the business. And it allowed me to try a lot of different things. So rather than spending time seeing if the media buyer is doing their job, or seeing if the sales manager is effectively leading the team, even when there was like a dip in performance, I still can stay focused on what I was doing in the other parts of the business to help grow, the rest of the business. Because I kind of like knew that they would kind of bring it back up. Whatever issue they had, they identified, they would resolve it, and they'll, turn it around. And then the same thing on the sales side. Whatever issue was happening in sales, it was brought up, it was discussed. And so I was able to finally focus on other parts of the business. And as a result of that, since working with Lance, our customer value has gone, like, so we do low ticket funnels. So in our business, we have ads to low ticket funnels as a primary strategy. And so our value per customer for like a $27 or $47 buyer, when we were working with Lance, or right before we were working with Lance, that customer value was hovering around $600 to $700 per customer in terms of the value that on average a customer would bring when all like coaching sales are accounted for. Our customer value today is $1,200 as a result of not even just it. Our customer value today is $1,200 because I've been able to focus on optimizing other parts of the business, because I know that the people that are in place on the media buying and the sales side are doing their job even when things go up and down, and every business has peaks and valleys. I've been able to focus on other parts of the business that have resulted in an increase in customer value and an increase in revenue from the same amount of leads, from the same amount of customers, from the same amount of coaching clients that we get to renew, we get to upgrade and serve in a different capacity. So allowing me to build those other, components of our business. Also, it's allowed me to also test new marketing strategies, which have worked, some which haven't. And recently we launched a new funnel that's different from what we've had in the past in terms of an acquisition funnel. And right now that funnel is producing an 8 to 9x ROI from our media buying. So our media buying to acquiring customers just for our front end coaching program, we're seeing an 8x to 9x return on that funnel. And that funnel would not have been built if I was still micromanaging all these people and trying to get them to do their job. So by the fact that I can just focus on other things and trust the people that are in place, whether it's a good day or a bad day, I've been able to, like, with my team, build these things that have been insanely valuable for increasing our customer value and also even improving the performance of our customer acquisition. When I was micromanaging, like, the people that were not living up to their requirements in that role, I mean, it's miserable because, one, you're always in a constant state of stress. I was constantly pissed off because I'm seeing things and catching things in just the data that they're not seeing or even mentioning. And I'm having to wait for them to say something. Cause it's like, the other part is you just get tired of the person that keeps bringing up problems and they say, like, keep pointing stuff out. And I could see that also those team members were also having an emotional reaction to me pointing that stuff out. And because there's no ownership, it became this repeating pattern over and over again. And so just constantly stressful, spending more time on stuff that we need to, having longer calls than we need to, because I'm having to, like, walk somebody through, here's where you're underperforming, or here's a gap, or how come this number dropped? Like, I, as a business owner, if I have people in place in leadership positions, should not be lowering myself into their position and putting their hat on, like, most of the time. Sometimes that's important, but if I'm constantly putting their hat on, which I hired them to put on, and viewing things in the way they need to be viewing things, then it just means that I have the wrong person there. But the conflict is also, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I'm kind of conflict averse. I don't like the difficult conversation. I don't thrive in conflict, especially when you're working with people that have become your friends. That also becomes very difficult. And I think the value, especially if you're kind of like that type of person, like you just don't like the conflict. You just want to be cool and want to keep things, even keel. Having Lance come in and kind of be that objective voice and kind of just be that guide and that mentor gave me the confidence to make the right calls. And those calls were difficult. It ended in relationships ending, like friendships. But ultimately, there's no friendship in the world that's more important than the livelihood of our team and and my family. And so that's the thing that sometimes business owners, especially if you're not the A type killer personality, which I'm not, like, you want to be nice and fair to everybody, but sometimes in my case I kind of lean in the other direction. I fell in this pattern of doing other people's job for them, and it's sucking up a lot of time, a lot of stress. I'm still not getting the outcome that I want, so it's creating financial strain with the company. It's creating financial strain personally. I'm having to defer getting paid for my own company, and that just sucks. And so when Lance came in, it wasn't like something that happened overnight, but the changes that needed to happen in our company over the next 6 months working with Lance happened. And it wasn't a straight line. There was still, in business, there was still oscillation. There were still up weeks and down weeks, up months and down months, but it was overall trending in the right direction. And I think that's all you can ask for is progress. And it was the progress we weren't making before. We were, instead of progress, we were regressing. Things were getting worse. And so the thing I'm grateful for is just working with Lance. I just had the courage to put things in place, have the difficult conversation, try new things. I had the time to start trying different things that I didn't have the time to do before. And I think that was the biggest thing. It was just having going from a place where you just don't have time for to innovate, to do the new things in your business you need to do to stay ahead, especially in a trust recession, especially when ad cost is going up. I didn't have the time to innovate, and I honestly didn't have the time for my family either. So that's the other thing. Like, we get in this business for freedom, and so both things were being sacrificed: the financial performance of the company, the personal fulfillment that should come from a business was obliterated over the course of like a year of kind of like this hell. And working with Lance help me kind of turn that ship around, make progress in the ways I mentioned before, with obviously increased customer value, being able to pay down and pay off debt that was accumulating as a result of kind of like this rapid descent into hell. And the key thing, the first thing that needed to go was making sure that the people that needed to be in leadership positions were there, that I didn't have to worry about whether they're doing their job effectively or not, and I can just kind of focus on other things. And I think that's the biggest thing. There's having the people in the right positions kind of stabilize the ship. But as a business owner, for me, the innovation, at least we're in our size of our business, needs to be driven by me. So if I'm able to focus on the future and a vision for what we can do for our clients and our customers, then if I'm not losing money and things stabilize, then that means I can focus on the things that actually help us make more money. And so that's the reason we've gone from a customer value of $600-700 to now $1,200, is because I was able to focus my time on those other things and take my attention off of, frankly, doing other people's job. The reasons I got attracted to Lance was because of his advertising. His advertising spoke directly to the issues we were experiencing in our business. In fact, the ad that I read was mirroring the exact things that were happening in our business. Our ad costs were rising, and while our ad costs are rising and it's costing us to spend more money, our lead quality is, rapidly declining. What worked earlier that year, 3 months earlier in that year, things were great. It's like we were, converting at the highest level we ever did, like in terms of like our leads to sale, highest conversion in the history of our company in early 2025. And it was just like, kind of like, is this real? Like, it's like, wow, it's like we really figured it out. And then March and April of 2025 hit, mainly April. And April is when we started seeing a decline, and not just the decline where it was gradual. It was like it fell off a cliff. It's like something changed with the algorithm, something changed with our sales team. I don't know what it was, but there was this rapid decline of over the course of 3 months of our sales performance and our ad costs going up at the same time. And it very quickly, we went from having a surplus of cash in our business to basically being, pretty deep in debt in a matter of 3 months, just like from one swing to the other. It was like we were riding high with the highest level of sales performance. And then within 3 months, it was like we're on the brink of just being insolvent. And so I needed to do something quickly, and I had no answers. Like, none of my mentors that I was working with at the time could help me with this. But then I saw Lance's ad, and he was basically telling my story in his ad. I was reading it, and there was an opportunity to book a call, and I just like booked the call right away. I was at my own event in between sessions of training that I do at our events. I saw Lance's ad. I showed it to my business partner. I'm like, read this. And he's like, dude, he's describing your life. And so then I, clicked on the ad, booked a call, had a couple conversations with Lance, and he, told me what the investment was. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's get started. And he gave me two options. He said, hey, we can do the mastermind option. And if you want the one-on-one, be able to work with me and have you dive into your business, this is what it is. I'm like, yeah, that one. Like, I needed to dive into my business, and he did. Lance was the most hands-on mentor I ever had, in a very good way. He went deep into my business. He interviewed everybody on my team. At some point, I was like, I am not paying him enough for him to do all the work that he's doing to go as deep in my business as he's going. Like he's literally interviewing, having conversations with everybody in our team. And I think those interviews exposed a lot just on that alone. I know for some people in our company, it felt, if you ever watched the movie Office Space, it felt like the Bobs are coming in where they're interviewing every single employee and see who they can lay off. I mean, that wasn't the intention. You know, he was just trying to see where the real problems in our business were versus what story I was telling. He's like, what's the difference between Ferny's story about what he's describing and what are the problems? And he gave me a great assessment, and he just dove in as deep as I would allow him. And I was like, I set no limit. And I think the response from the people on the team said a lot. Some people welcomed him and were very open and curious and wanted to learn, all the way from our leadership team to like even our clients. Like Lance would do calls with our clients without any obligation to have him do those calls. But he saw that there was a value to the business to be added if he did some coaching calls with our clients who have paid us. And he did that. And so he just kind of went through everybody and gave me his honest assessment. And it wasn't like I agreed with everything or I loved everything, whatever. But having that mentor who has the experience and having that collaboration with another individual that is extremely intelligent, smart, and experienced in this type of business model just gave me a lot of clarity, gave me a lot of courage to make the changes that I needed to make. Some people exited themselves and kind of like fired themselves before I could do that because they saw that the status quo was no longer okay. You're not going to just get a paycheck for just showing up. The company has to thrive and be healthy. And so, you know, Lance was added for months in the beginning, going as deep. And as soon as, you know, basically as soon as he saw things turn around, he kind of just started to kind of step away and let the leaders, you know, take ownership. And so it was kind of, it was interesting where he was kind of like at a certain point in the turnaround of our business, he just almost like receded into the walls and kind of disappeared as if he wasn't there. But in the beginning, he was just like deeply involved in every aspect of our business. And I couldn't, I just, it didn't make sense to me how he was willing to spend that much time, go that deep for the amount of money that I was paying him. And what I was paying him was not small. It was just, I've never had I never had a mentor that was willing to invest that much time to help my business. And honestly, I don't know if I would have spent that much time in his position, but he did, and I'm super grateful. In terms of like having any doubts or fears around having him, you know, work and talk with our team, I probably did, but they were probably overridden very quickly by the need that was needed in our business for change, like rapid change. And so at this point, I was okay with the bull in the china shop because he was probably going to break the most fragile pieces. And then the pieces in the china shop that were the most sturdy were probably going to be okay. But he wasn't a bull in the china shop. He, you know, was very diplomatic and gentle and wanted to absolutely see the best in people, and he did. And he also helped me understand or just confirm what I already knew, that just certain people just weren't ideal for what we needed them to do. That we probably had outgrown them a while ago, and we just hadn't made the change because of personal relationships. It really helped me kind of separate the personal from the business and what's good for the business. And for the most part, you know, everybody on the team that is still here with us was very welcoming and open and receptive to his feedback. And then the people that are not here with us were very antagonistic to his presence and feedback. And that told me a lot. Like, I'm not going to psychoanalyze anyone. I don't care if it was ego, fear, insecurity, whatever it is, whatever the cause of that negative response to him just wanting to help, that needed to go. Because this is, we need to always be open, and I'm always constantly hiring mentors. And if I'm, as a business owner, willing to pay the bill to have somebody help you in your role, like I'm paying this guy to help me, I'm paying him also to help you, and you not being receptive and open to that, well, that just tells me that you're not in in the right position. You're not a fit for what we do, because everyone I think needs a mentor, needs a third party to help them see things differently. And I think it's important for anyone, a business owner or an employee or a contractor, if somebody suggests, and especially if they're footing the bill, like, hey, hear this guy out and see how he might be able to support you. I think that can only be a positive. And even if they're dead wrong, like the exercise of just suspending your ego and your beliefs and just trying on somebody else's piece of advice for a week or two and see if it fits is one of the most valuable things I ever learned about being coachable. Is that even if you disagree, just try it on and give it a good faith application or implementation of the feedback, and then let the data speak for itself. When I made the move from having an agency to an in-house media buyer, which we have now, I think the biggest benefit of having the relationship with Lance and you guys was the support that was offered to that person. And that first and foremost, that person was open. So when I hired and interviewed this person, I could say I got lucky in that I didn't have to look too far. But also, what I was looking for in that media buyer was that they were super open to ideas, coachable, had experience, obviously, in media buying, had a history and track record of being ultra coachable and disciplined and hardworking. And that's kind of hard thing to verify, but I actually had a previous working relationship with the person we actually hired in a completely different capacity. But I saw how hard they put in the work, how much they wanted to succeed and win in the role that they were at formerly. And I remembered that trait. It's like that the fact that they're just open, coachable, and willing to work extremely hard to do the job right. And that if they want to have the lifestyle business, well, that means that they got to get so good at their job eventually that they get to have that extra time, but they have to earn it. So up front, they're willing to put in the time and the effort to get things in place so that we have a great running machine. And so the kind of thing is, like, I didn't go deep when I was hiring this media buyer. I didn't go super deep on their technical knowledge of media buying or their technical knowledge of Facebook or any of that stuff. Because I knew that if they were open, having the relationship with CJ and Lance and giving them the opportunity to be mentored multiple times per week, every single week, I knew that whatever gaps they had on the media buying knowledge or the technical side or the algorithm side was going to kind of get covered over time, and that we would close that gap. What I was looking for, and what working with you guys gave me the freedom when hiring to look for, is spend more time on evaluating their work ethic, evaluating their history of coachability, evaluating experience that has more to do with character. And so character was something that was just lacking in the previous role, the previous hires that we had done in media buying and in other leadership positions. And having that character and using that as the primary barometer to hire ended up being like the best thing I could do, because I knew whatever technical gap there was, that was going to be filled. And so in addition to any experience they brought in as a media buyer, I knew that there was an opportunity to have Lance and the team, get them up to speed. And I also knew that they were going to be open to my ideas too. So in addition to what they're bringing in addition to what they're getting from CJ and Lance, I knew that also whatever ideas I had or strategies that I saw that I may want to deploy, they weren't going to be resisting it. They would be open to try it. And I think, and most importantly, having an internal media buyer versus an agency is that we can move a lot faster. They're there in every meeting. I don't have to funnel information from the meeting and organize it and then like convey it over the media, the agency, and then they take a day or two to respond and all that stuff. Internal media buyers are right there in the meeting. They take in all the information that we discussed during our marketing meetings, and they can get their marching orders from that point on. And also they have the time to meet with you if necessary, to scope out a project, to scope out a new campaign, to scope out a funnel, to come up with, ad creative. So part of the success we've recently had with a new funnel where we're doing about 8 or 9x return on our ad spend just from the front end coaching offer is as a result of that speed of implementation that we got from that internal media buyer that's simultaneously getting mentored and supported by Lance and the team. I mean, not having to micromanage people in leadership in our business. So the leadership positions of a media buyer, because it's their own department, the leadership position of sales and other parts of our business, not having to spend as much time on those aspects of my business have obviously allowed me to focus on other just new systems, innovation. I recently built an entire AI platform from scratch that has dramatically enhanced the experience of our clients. It probably has also helped with our conversions into our program. It certainly helped with the upgrades that we're getting from existing clients into our higher level programs, because I was able to finally innovate something and spend a lot of time building something new that doesn't exist in our space, in our industry, that is truly innovative and cutting edge. So I was able to like enhance a part of our business and the experience of our customers in a way that I wouldn't have had time to do before. And then simultaneously, I started getting my weekends back. I started getting my evenings back, and we're still working extremely hard and racing during this era of AI to set a foundation that's going to set us up for the future. But honestly, I got in this business for freedom, and in those, 6 months to a year of hell, when I'm having to micromanage and solve the crisis and essentially save the company, you don't have the luxury of having weekends. You don't have the luxury of time off or travel or vacations or any of that stuff. So that's what I got back from a personal standpoint. I just got the opportunity to breathe on a weekend, take an evening off, like play with my son without having to be thinking about the business, in the back of my mind. I think that's probably the most important part, because otherwise I just wouldn't have been able to keep it up. Like my health would have at some point given out, and it didn't. That's great. I'm resilient. But I was able to focus more on my health. Over the past few months, I've lost 40 pounds. I able to focus more on my family, and by no means is it where I want it to be, but it's so much better than it was a year ago. Having Lance in my corner when I needed him, especially in the early days of us working together. I mean, I was just shocked as to how available he was, how much time he was willing to take time out of his schedule. I know there were times when he was with his family doing something out at dinner or something, and he was willing, and I'm not saying he's going to do this always, but he was willing to just step away and take my call and have a conversation. And I think he did it because he knew I needed it. He knew that that we were in the middle of a crisis, that he wanted to support and help. And if he had said no, if he had said, I don't have time right now, but let's schedule something tomorrow or the next day, I totally would have understood. Like there would have been no issue with him saying that. But the fact that he actually took the time and supported me thinking through some decisions I needed to make was awesome. And problem solving around, cash crunches, making sure that we have the cash on hand to pay our bills, to pay our team, to pay the media buyer, to pay for the media buying and all that stuff. I mean, there were some tense periods where we were having to just be very creative with how we manage cash flow. And so all of that was just super helpful, to just be able to call Lance or send him a message and he calls me back, or he records a voice message, to just problem solve through these very critical periods where if I make the wrong call, then the business is done. If anything of what I shared is resonating or mirroring your experience, then you owe it to yourself to have a conversation with Lance or whoever on Lance's team can help, because I definitely know for sure from personal experience that they understand where you're at, and that if your problems might feel like it's only happening to you, but I guarantee these problems are happening to countless business owners, high ticket coaches, agencies, and digital marketing businesses across the industry. I know we're not special. I know that what was happening in our business was being replicated across other businesses in our industry, outside of our industry. And I think that's actually a very positive thing because Lance had seen it over and over again with a lot of different businesses. In fact, he was helping businesses with these type of problems before, Facebook algorithm changes happened, before this trust recession happened. And so he already had a ton of experience helping people sort through, hey, what do you do when media buying costs rise and you're not getting the output that you used to get, the customers that you used to get, the leads that you used to get, the quality in your sales calls that you used to get, the response from your people in leadership that you used to get. When those things start failing, that's the time where you want to have a conversation with somebody that knows how to solve those problems. And Lance was that person. And the longer you wait, if you kind of just want to try to figure it out on your own because you're reluctant to invest, especially when cash is tight, I understand that, hey, if you're already in debt or, your profitability is going down and the last thing you want to do is spend more money. But the longer you wait, you're actually going to lose way more than just having an expert like Lance be able to give you that feedback and, really know, first and foremost, help you see that you're not that special, that these problems are solvable, that they've been solved over and over again for a lot of other businesses. For me, that's actually reassuring that my problems are not special and that there's somebody that knows how to solve them, or at least can point me in the direction. Or if I'm willing to be coachable and I'm willing to run and I'm willing to work hard and I'm willing to kind of sacrifice a weekend or two to put new things in place with that type of guidance, then you need to go for it, because long term, not making that investment is going to cost you. So if you need to put it on a credit card, if you need to get a loan, whatever it is, do it, because it's the best investment you can make, because it's really it's an investment in yourself as a leader, in yourself to broaden your skill set as a CEO, as an owner, as an executive of your company.